So, anyway, we're going to talk about the number 100. People will be like, well, yeah, we learned about that in third grade or whatever. But if you talk to 100. My cat's being a pain in the ass. If you talk to 100 people per day about a certain predicament in your life, you will get 100 answers. 100 answers might not be what you want to hear, but if you ask 100 people, you'll have a more informed decision. If you have 100 watches, it's an impressive collection. If you have 100 eggs, your hens produce a lot. If you have 100, late fees, you're going to have to pay those. 100's more of an alert scenario than most things. And the reason why I'm taking a pics of my coffee is because I actually spent $1 on this today. So anyway, I'm feeling really pumped about 100. Um, but yeah, if you want anything worthwhile, 100 can be a very powerful number. Um, you know, it's an impressive number, and it's also a number of warning and willpower and all that good stuff. Um, and also, if you're, good at 100 things, people think that you're talented, which isn't exactly true. It means that, you're a jack of all trades, a master of nothing, which could be a bit of a problem because you don't know what you're good at and you don't know who you are as a person. But, yeah, 100 is a very complicated number. um, the reason why I bring this up is some people see themselves as introverted, some people see themselves as extroverted, but there's a point where the two have to intermittently exist in one person. It's either you're extroverted when you're at work and you have to kind of tell about problems or scenarios that you've been facing, or if you're extroverted, you have to be introverted when having a review or having, something that's kind of more maintenance oriented than, performance art. So, it's one of those things too. But yeah, 100 is pretty a pretty good number to think about when you're thinking about a lot of different scenarios that might be difficult for you to face in your life. You should actually interview 100 people about the same issue. Some people have knowledge on it, some people don't, and you might actually find a friend in some people that actually want to know the same information you want to know. When I worked at Home Depot, you ring up people and they have the same scenario and questions that you do. So, with you getting the knowledge, you can spread the knowledge to other people that might need it for a point in their life too. So, I love Dunkin's coffee. Um, but anyway, there's a point where you're gonna need 100. But to make a just decision, 100 is probably better than just one person. People, internalize a lot of issues in their lives where it's just happening to them, but they don't realize that millions of people have probably faced the same thing. And if you talk to 100 people, there's going to be like one or two people that have had the exact experience you've had, and some other people that are entirely against it. Like, it doesn't matter what it is. It could be a very personal issue. It could be an identity crisis. It could be trying to be aware of a situation. But whatever the case is, it's better to have 100 suggestions or opinions than it is to only have one opinion. And you have to kind of look at your life as, the potential to be at 100 all the time. I actually did this experiment when I took a couple months off of YouTube, and it was for my healing process. With a lot of people, they they go through like the scenario, you know, district district of mind, thinking and what ifs and things of that nature, which honestly is kind of a nice little escape from your own situation sometimes. But if you need an answer right away, I think it's more confusing than anything else. With healing and stuff, I actually asked the question, how do you heal or relax? And people go through the scenario of grief. They go through the scenario of self improvement, learning. Um, but people defy healing as very different things. Um, they go through the scenario of you could learn new things from it, or you could write a book, you could do an activity, or talk about what you've been through. Um, but there's never anything about self-help or connecting with other people, like a self-help group or something. Nobody ever suggests that because society kind of looks at therapy as a bad thing. I don't think so. I think it's more of like you have to introduce the cause, effect, and what the pros and cons to therapy to some people. But yeah, um, I think it was very weird that I opened up to a lot of people about my journal, especially when I was healing, and they read some stuff out of my journal. Um, and let's see. I think the biggest hangup was the point of my third year journal where I actually went over steps that I did to like end my life. That was a really shocking experience for some Christians and Muslims that I talked to. And they were like, why would you itemize certain things that you did in order to end your life? And what was leading up to this? And it's very interesting to hear a take of one religion to another religion. And I think Muslim people are kind of like it's a self-sacrificing thing. With Christians, it's a selfish thing. Um, Actually, if you look at a pagan chant, it's actually a celebration of self, which is which is very different. Um, but yeah, it's all in perspective, and that's why the 100 thing is a big deal. But yeah, when I was thinking about telling people about my healing and stuff like that, I wasn't sure to do the perspective that I actually learned or my 100 theory scenario. So I was like, I'll do both. My cat's trying to pull down my record albums again. Oh boy. Anyway, so with all that, it's kind of self-deprecating in a fashion, but at the same time, people have to know your journey in order to know and give you the right information. Um, so I shared my journals with people. So people that were for the suicide page were actually not atheists, believe it or not. They were more of people that have had domestic violence experiences, or they came from a broken home, they were abused as children, and they were for suicide and that type of thing, which is very interesting. They were raised, most of them Catholic, I would say, and some of them were raised in differentiation, meaning probably more of like a like Mormon and stuff like that, which is interesting. Some people that grow up Mormon are more like cynical, and some are very like into the culture or whatever. But that's like that with every type of thing. But like if you're connecting with people, you're going to get a lot of different scenarios, people, and their own situations. Um, I always think it's interesting when you meet up with somebody who is an artist and their art actually reflects their own story. I think I actually ran into a writer and a visual artist, a sculptor. The writer writes about Bible verses, which I thought was very interesting. He writes Bible verses and then he reflects on his own life and he writes about his experiences with that cause of scripture, which was interesting. And, you know, stuff that goes on in the park, right? And then there's an artist that deals with pain and, you know, healing anyway, which honestly was probably like the best conversation I've had with a person. But yeah, they were talking about how they went through pain and then they like healed from it by finding their own art and colors and getting lost in their work and things. But yeah, it's a journey in and of itself. So basically what I'm saying is if you need a just decision about anything, you should take the topic and don't ask a yes or no question. Ask a confirmational question because people will give you more information if it's a confirmational question, meaning they'll draw their own conclusions from it. And most people, they try to give you your answer to you, which is very, very odd. But yeah, it's interesting. People try to be people pleasers when they answer questions, which is not right. Retail kind of, you know, grooms you to be more of a people pleaser than you should be. Self-thinking isn't really high on their menu. My cat is trying to get those records. Now he's done. Okay. Anyway, but yeah, you have to kind of know where you stand and then like kind of take everybody's answer as who they are as a person. But yeah, people like talking to other people. So it doesn't matter what the question is. People like talking to other people, even if it's only like comforting words, which is good. Um, but for the justice of countries and things, it depends of where exactly you're going to ask these questions. If it's like a mixing pot, like like Charlotte is, you're gonna get a lot of different people, a lot of different answers, a lot of different scenarios, and a lot of different stories. If it's like a religious area that's highly dense in one particular religion over the other, you're going to get a lot of like a 60-40 mix or an 80-20 mix of different answers. But I think everybody should at least do this once in a while. So then you kind of get a more healthy look at where you're going and why. And like no man's an island, meaning that you do need other people to help you along your journey. You're not just gonna be like, oh, I'm a self-made. Nobody's self-made. Let's be honest with each other. You had to do something in order to have appreciation from other people or interest from other people in order to endorse you. endorse the company you work at, endorse, you know, your lifestyle, basically. So, no man's an island, and for people not to look at another person and see them as equal is very, very difficult to watch. Okay? That person could have endorsed you your entire life, but they fell on hard times or they had life hit them from more of a cornerstone than a main stone. You know what I mean? Cornerstones aren't the best areas to build a house either. So, yeah. So you have to look at everybody as equal. They might have hit hard times, but they might have endorsed your entire lifestyle. You might not know that. Um, they're just dealing with harder conclusions in their life than most people. I see it as they gave too much of themselves and they never got anything back for it. It's kind of like the fool's journey, where the fool wanted to help everybody he came in contact with. And in doing so, he lost pieces of himself, literally. So you kind of have to give a little, get a little, give a little, get a little. Because if you don't, it gets to that point, and then you're kind of in a situation of desperation trying to become something you're not. Okay. Anyway, I'm going to leave this here, and I will see you in the next video. And you can draw your own conclusions, but you have to change your perspective on, oh, I'm the only one going through this. Millions of people have gone through the same stuff you have, but it's just in different ways they've handled it to become the people that they have to be and the people that they talk to. And, you're going to encounter 100 people per day, most times. So it's better to ask people about what they think about heavy situations in your life, so then you can be better equipped to handle certain situations better and, take that on. But yeah, it's a trial and error thing. Everything in my life has been, kind of going over and asking people that have done, you know, playwrights before. I've actually talked to people that have written playwrights and comedies and things like that, but you have to understand that your comedy has to be translated into the work. Your point of view has to be translated as well. It can't just be like, oh, this happened and this happened and this happened. You have to be the protagonist sometimes and you have to be the antagonist sometimes. But you have to kind of be, all around in a perspective. You can't just be one thing and you can't be a million things. You have to be one thing at a time. Alright, anyway, I will see you in the next one. Alright, bye.